Oh, okay. Okay, I just want to give you the comments of. Okay, sorry.
Okay, no worries. It's fine.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Anyone have public comment today? Seeing none, the approval of the December 18th meeting minutes. Can I get a motion? Any comments or corrections to the meeting minutes?
Right.
All right. All in favor of approving those meeting minutes? Opposed? All right. Approved. We'll move into the regional air quality update. Tom is here in person today. Go ahead, Tom.
Great. Well, thanks for fitting me in on this. A little different than just a general update. I asked Becky if I could go through this information because we are moving kind of quickly on this topic. There is a little bit of information in there that overlaps with what we share with the planning council. But my understanding is that this kind of information will move on to them as an outcome from this meeting. So I'm hoping these will get to the planning council as well. Okay, so I'd like to talk to you about indirect source emission reductions. It's a control strategy topic we're working on. So we'll go to the next slide, please. Indirect source means something pretty specific in the Clean Air Act. It's facilities or installations that cause substantial mobile emissions activity. So think about all kinds of cars, trucks, forklifts, all kinds of stuff. And then a common example of those are listed below. And so there's an opportunity under the Clean Air Act to prepare a federally enforceable control strategy that EPA would back the state up on to reduce these kinds of emissions. This has been rather well developed in Southern California with warehouses. On the next slide then. We have a number of strategies that we're looking at. We need to not only reduce emissions in the near term to achieve the ozone standard in 2026, we're trying to take the longer view and realize that there are additional strategies that need to be looked at by the Air Quality Control Commission, in 2026, kind of looking out to that 2027 to 2030 timeframe. We're up against something you all deal with in your work too, growth. So in spite of our efforts to reduce emissions, there are so many people moving here. They come with the cars and the lawnmowers that they come with. They don't come with what we like them to come with. So there's a lot of additional emissions. So we have mobile sources, the mobile emissions from indirect sources. We have an initiative started with zero emission forklifts, and there may be some other ones that we do along the way. So this is not an immediate indirect source strategy that needs to be adopted and start in a year. It's more of a longer term, midterm sort of activity. Right, on the next slide then. Just a timeline thing. So those of you that don't feel like you have enough to do and you want to participate in the RAC process, we have quite a bit of meeting going on to do our ozone planning. And so this timeline kind of lays that out in terms of how we're meeting with our board and our control strategy committee. We meet with the control strategy committee. That's an open forum once a month on the first Wednesday in the morning. Just had that meeting, but we're going to tick through this schedule on an ongoing basis to look at our ozone analysis work, a slate of control strategies, kind of building off that list I just talked about. And then we have to educate our 30+ member board, many of whom are not air quality experts, on strategies and planning process. So we have sort of a moderately complex process that we have to undertake to get through in the next 6 to 7 months. And then across the bottom, I'm just showing that we're continuing this indirect source development effort, more of a longer term thing. And we will be briefing our board and the control strategy committee as we go along. But we have a really big deadline coming in June, so we're working towards that. All right, on the next slide then, I'm going to turn for the next few slides and just talk about the indirect source emission reduction effort. We've formed a work group. It's been meeting for about the last 4 months. We try to use these 3 meetings in the fall to educate and orient people to the need for these strategies. So we had a number of presentations, what options are there, what's been done, that kind of thing. And we started soliciting input from stakeholders to discuss that. So that link at the bottom provides all of the meeting information. We want to look back at the background. So again, on the right, at these 3 meetings, I just list out the what we covered at each meeting. It's new information each meeting, but it follows the same general format. So we're using a presentation and discussion mode, and now we're going to change direction. And that's one reason I wanted to brief you all today, so you have an opportunity to join in if you want to. On the next slide, then, this just at a high level at least touches on the kinds of information that's been discussed. We have a project with the state agencies, energy, transportation, and air pollution control to work on indirect sources. That's what we call the interagency sources project. We had presentations from the San Joaquin Valley in California that has this kind of program. We need to consider the legal analysis and data analysis needs. A couple of existing programs that we're referencing that I mentioned are zero emission forklifts on the South Coast warehouse, what they call the WARE program, and gives you kind of a laundry list of who shared their perspective. So we have a wide variety of folks sharing perspectives from both the potential regulated community, trucking, warehouses, that kind of thing, as well as folks that are interested in environmental goals. Then on the next slide, the work group goals that have emerged from these meetings, just so you're kind of plugged in with where we are at this point, is we've reviewed these existing goals and programs around the country. We started to identify the benefits and roadblocks for establishing these types of programs in our 9-county area, which of course includes Larimer and Weld, and Becky actually presented at our last meeting in December about the work that you all do. And then we need to try and get the work group to coalesce around a proposed framework to put together such a program. So there's at least 3 issues that are kind of summarized at a high level at the bottom. What are the costs and benefits of adding this new air pollution control program? It doesn't exist in Colorado. We have to make them tangible. They have to produce emission reductions from specific sources over a specific period of time in order to make them enforceable. So it's not a volunteer thing. It would be something where there was a requirement to make changes in mobile emissions. But we need a collaborative process to do that. And so the work group members have certainly identified that as well. And on the next slide, again, just to give you sort of a perspective on who's participating. And part of my outreach today is to encourage TAC members to follow up with me today or offline. We're interested in reaching more groups. So we've done a little bit of community and environmental group outreach. We've touched the industry, although that's a very complicated group to get into. Warehouse owners are not in a handy-dandy association that you can just call up and that kind of thing. So if you all have contacts, or cities or the NPO has initiatives that related to this kind of thing, be very interested in hearing more from you all about that. We have several types of governments involved, and so you see those listed there. And then the kinds of transit and transportation folks. So if the TAC or the Northern Front Range NPO staff are more interested in being involved, we certainly welcome that in this process. Then on the next slide, we held a meeting just yesterday, so I'm not going to try and go over all that, but You can look at that meeting information. It contains a couple of presentations and recording that kicks off the next phase, which I'll talk about next. We have updated our legal authority memo. Since it's not an existing kind of control program that the Air Quality Control Commission has adopted, it's very important to have a solid legal basis to propose a regulation like this. And then we, with the help of our state agency partners, we've just published another data report that's posted on a different page of the WAC website, but it contains information about expected trips that are generated from these kinds of facilities. Okay, I'm almost done. A lot of information here. Next slide. So it's been decided that we kind of over the last month and a half that we can support up to 3 sub-work groups. So the recommendation to our committees and boards is to sort of attack these 3 areas: warehouses, because we have an existing program in California that could be adapted or modeled from. Entertainment and recreation sites, especially the key ones in summer, like Red Rocks and Coors Field and that kind of thing. That might be a area that we could look into changing the mobile source emissions profile around. And then we got these little things called airports and universities. 2% of every single trip in the DRCOG area is to or from the airport. So it's a very significant generator of just on-road mobile emissions. And our universities are like small cities. So we'd like to explore with the airport and the universities kind of what could be done to reduce or change trips. So we have general agreement that these are fine. I'm sure people would like to look at other topics, or maybe some of these are more complicated than others, but those are the 3 that we're going to break into some work groups to work on. So we're going to try and guide the development of a program or regulation for each of these 3 subtopics. We have to address environmental justice as a state policy, state statutory matter. We're going to focus on the sources associated with these kind of facilities that have a lot of trip generation, a lot of miles traveled, and or are associated with high emitting vehicles. So there's sort of more than one way to think about trips. There's a lot of trips. There's how far are they? And then what kinds of vehicles are making those trips? So we have good data on square footage, emissions, total trips, total mileage. That's widely available since we work in air pollution. And we also feel like these 3 categories have measurable and notable economic activity that would suggest that they have the ability to make some reductions. So anyway, that's why we've picked the ones that we have, and would encourage you all, if you want to become involved. And then more slide, I think. So here's our next meeting. We're actually going to have the 3 sub-work group meetings back to back on January 28th. And it's an open forum, so you're welcome to attend any or all of those to participate and learn more. We're going to provide a draft charge statement for each group. The group is responsible for its own work product, but we're going to set out kind of the goals and ideas that we want them to address. And then these subgroups will keep meeting on the 4th Tuesday of every month from 9 to noon. All right, I think the next slide says questions. So that's a lot of information, but it's kind of an important change in air quality planning work that we're anticipating.
You have any questions for Tom? Any hands online? I have a quick question, I guess. Have you tried to reach out to any chambers of commerce or any, I guess, warehouse? They don't necessarily have an HOA, but I wonder if a chamber of commerce might be able to get you in contact with people that have.
Yes, we have, and we've had some success in getting a group that had been participating previously called the Building Owners and Managers Association. So the warehouses are one kind of building, but there are other buildings that generate trips as well. So we're gonna try and follow up then, but that's a good idea to try harder to change the numbers.
There's a new Amazon warehouse in Loveland, it's not up and running yet, but I was thinking those types of, I'm sure there are lots of those types. of things.
Amazon is involved.
They are.
They're a big trip generator of all kinds.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if I may, Nicole, that sort of is an example of how complicated warehouses are. So there's that kind of warehouse where all the stuff that we all like to buy from Amazon is brought to a place and then redistributed. So there are many trips bringing stuff and then sorting it out and taking it out to homes and stuff. But Costco is another example of a
Yes.
warehouse
Yeah.
that, you can barely find a parking place on the weekend, right? So that's another kind of trip generator, but those two types of warehouses are extremely different.
Yes.
And they have different economic operations and stuff like that. So we have a long way to go to kind of just sort out what's possible.
We're in the same boat as we read traffic studies and try to assess what the impacts are. Great, thank you so much, Tom. Great. Our next agenda item is the ABCD update, and we have Brendan CCO.
Hi, everyone. A quick update from the Air Division. Mostly from last month's AQCC meeting and regarding some hearings. First update is the commission set a public hearing to consider a designation recommendation for the EPA's revised PM 2.5 NAAQS standard. The public hearing was set for this month. Then the next update is that the commission set a hearing to consider revisions to regulation number 3 and number 7 to address air toxics reporting requirements and potential increases to emissions permitting fees in response to House Bill 22-1244. Rulemaking hearing was set for this for April of this year. And then the final update is that the commission adopted revisions to regulation number 7 to include the midstream segment emission reduction plan. Midstream operations include facilities that gather, compress, and process natural gas, such as compressor stations or processing plants. This also included revisions to regulations number 25, number 26, and number 27, which includes changes to address SIP disapprovals. And those are all the updates. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Brendan? Brendan? All right, so our next item of business for discussion and a vote is the 2021 to 2025 NPO targets for safety performance measures. All right, so I'm Michaela. Hello. At last month's TAC meeting, we had a discussion about safety performance measure targets for the time period from 2021 to 2025. And then there was also a discussion about this at council last week. So we have two options for setting these targets. We can either support the state's targets, or we can set our own regional targets, and those can be seen side by side here in table 1. As a comparison, these targets are, we don't want to exceed them. Really, the goal is to not exceed them. We want to be below these targets, and these numbers must be data driven. And really, both TAC last month and council last week, really the consensus was to go with the regional target option for our MPO instead of the CDOT target. So really, I am just here today. I'm happy to answer any more questions if people have them.
But I'm requesting that TAC recommends the regional safety performance targets option for 2021 to 2025 to planning council.
Questions or discussion?
It looks like all the regional targets are maybe make sense to be less than the statewide targets. But there's that rate one for serious injuries. Why is the regional rate target higher than the statewide rate?
Yeah, so the rates are all based off of vehicle miles traveled, so it takes that into account. And so whenever you just run the numbers, like the fatality rate is lower than the states. However, the serious injury rate is higher. I think we've discussed this a little bit last month, how, you know, not every target here is like heading in the right direction necessarily, because when we compare, table 2 has the statewide ones, just across the board, all of these numbers are trending in the wrong direction, whereas like if we look at last year's regional target that was set, we are moving in the right direction, at least with our fatalities. They are, you know, decreasing whenever we take the time period numbers into account. And just overall, you know, even though the numbers may not be where we like, the regional target might just better reflect our region and adopting that instead of just the state's numbers that we don't really get to control the whole state and what they're doing in regard to safety.
So thanks for bringing up this
Yeah.
table. I'm sorry I missed the
No,
discussion
you're
last
good.
month. So it looks like for serious injuries in the rate, here in our area, it's trending the wrong way. So we're adopting a goal that's higher than what just happened.
Yeah, so these targets have to be data driven. So it's all based off of, you know, actual crash data. So this year's range, 2021 to 2023, we use real crash data numbers. And then we have to plug in estimates for 2024 and 2025. And those 5 years are all averaged together. So unfortunately, we can't really change the numbers. It's the same methodology that CDOT uses, that's federally used. So it's really just a one or the other, even if we don't like the numbers, unfortunately.
Okay, well, thanks for explaining that. I appreciate everybody sitting through my question. I mean, I would just point out, this is sort of analogous to what we do in the air quality planning world. If we allow emissions to increase, then air quality will not improve. So if the rate is 6.73 for the last 5 years, and we're setting a data-driven, you know, projection of 7.67, then it seems like you know, it's not improving. So I wonder how the goal setting drives the improvement. Maybe that's my question.
So really, as of like right now, we don't have like regional funds fully set aside for safety. So it's really up to, you know, our local governments to, you know, what projects are they doing? What is happening within the region? You know, for right now, it's really, you know, what is each individual government doing?
I think our goal here is 0 crashes, right? Our goal, so the goal we're working towards, these are our alarms that should be set, that if we exceed this amount, there's an alarm that we, you know, we're going in the wrong direction and we need to turn around. Our goal is to get it to 0. And I think each of the municipalities, and we know as engineers that that's hard, right? To get there, that'll require a lot of investment, a lot of challenges, but our goal is truly to eliminate fatalities and serious injuries and crashes, and this is that's our true goal, right? And then these targets are alarm bells that tell us we're going the wrong way. We hit them.
Yeah, like our regional transportation plan has the towards zero deaths, statement in it, that's what was approved by council a few years back, so zero is truly the goal. This is just kind of the federal checkbox. Do we support the state's targets or adopt our own? During planning council, we talked a little bit about having regional data sets that we compile on a maybe a monthly basis through a dashboard. Is that something that, since last week y'all have talked about it all, or something that we're gonna be moving forward with? Yeah, I was gonna mention it like our roundtable at the end. We're having our own internal conversation about like if that would be possible, what that could potentially look like. So we're discussing it. And you all should hear from me either the next TAC meeting or like maybe through email if there's any updates to that. For anyone who wasn't at council, it was a really big discussion of trying to, all the data's behind by a few years, 2024 just ended, but the most recent data we have is from 2023 that's been checked, completed since we get the data from CDOT. So it was just brought up at council, can we create a more regional database with more recent numbers for our project?
Anna Rose held some work groups about this last year that were awesome, and it was amazing to see how much of this work is happening locally very quickly. Collins has a very comprehensive set of crash data. Loveland has the same. Where we had the gap in data was the smaller communities, and obviously the number of crashes we're processing in the state patrol data, which is on the roads between those communities, but I really feel like we've got a majority of the data in a pretty current set, and all of Fort Collins data is GIS geocoded, all of Loveland's data is geocoded. It very easily could be transferred to the NPO, and I don't know what Fulton County, Windsor is using. We use Crash Magic in both Loveland and Fort Collins. Who else has?
We're anticipating getting up to speed on Crash Magic, so as we build out our database, we'd love to copy someone else's, especially if you have rolled nicely into your own.
Yeah, but I think we're closer than we are farther away in that and it will take some resources, and maybe that's a shared grant. I know the HSIP, I did it close, and the HSIP closed, but there are some calls for safety money right now, and that might be something we can all partner on and work towards. But I love the idea, and it has been sort of a chronic problem that we're making decisions. And the way to get apple to apple decisions is to use the data that's old, and by the time we're using it, sometimes it's a bit outdated. So I love that conversation. I hope we can actually move that way.
Yeah, I'll keep you all updated on that as we continue to discuss. This council was just a week ago, so we're not. It's a bigger conversation yet to start sharing. But yeah, any other questions about the targets?
Any questions on?
Just to follow up on the dashboard, so I'm curious, I've previously helped Kansas Department of Transportation build out a crash dashboard. And they have, at a state level, control of a lot of different variables, there's a lot of filters. I was just curious, what kind of factors you're looking at getting into that dashboard? Is it just understanding fatal, serious location? Is it separating out the users? Is it getting into crash causes? Like what kind of level of detail has been discussed with that? Out of curiosity.
We haven't discussed that level yet. It's more just the logistics.
Sure. Cool.
I would say each of the municipalities has, most of us have something similar to what you're describing, where we look at causation and sort of do an assessment annually of what's happening with those intersections.
Cool. Thank you.
So I would just say the regional model, I feel like we have more ability to affect change with the regional numbers, so that would certainly be my preference, that we keep going with the regional. And that way we're able to more honestly track what impact we're having on.
It makes sense to me as well. But just one quick question. We're really only choosing here whether we're talking about a regional goal or a state goal.
Correct.
Otherwise, the goals are set. Or the targets.
Yeah, it's just picking between, do we support the state's targets or do we adopt our own? Yeah.
Sorry, I gotta ask again. So if the regional rate for serious injuries per 100,000 miles traveled is higher regional basis than what the state is aiming for, would that be a goal we could adopt?
And we can always beat these targets, right? These are goals that we would set. I think the fact that we can have more impact on changing that goal and hopefully coming under, under the state's goal, right? I think serious injury and fatality in Fort Collins, we would always combine those because statistically, when you're the number of fatals is much lower. And so when you combine them, there's more of a statistically balanced, you get less of the change when you combine those numbers, because you have a bigger base of what they are, and your chances of serious injury, crash, or fatality are really chance, right? What would kill one person might not kill another, and so we would combine those sometimes because you have a little bit of variability there. But I feel like in the regional numbers, we have more opportunity to really measure our impact on what we're doing. That seems really. We aren't seeing a trend of what that number has been, right? I'm overseeing 21 for 20, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't have the full presentation today, but the packet from the December TAC meeting has, the year-to-year actual numbers, and then it had the estimates for 24 and 25, like all in that bar chart.
Do we feel like we're in a consensus? Does someone want to make a motion?
Motion to adopt a regional target rather than the state's target.
Second. All right, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Our next agenda item is the 2024 MMO call for projects and works.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, today I'm here to request your recommendation of the MMO projects, funding recommendations. So, okay, so I go next. So in terms of what I'm going to cover today, a lot of this should be familiar to you, but you can never hear it too many times, right? So I'll give a program overview, then get into the project recommendations themselves, and then I'll be, like I said, seeking a recommendation from the council. So again, there's important goals of the program: benefit seniors by making aging in place more feasible, benefits residents of communities in rural and disproportionately impacted communities by providing them with more accessible and flexible public transportation services, provides enhanced mobility for persons with disabilities, provides safe routes to school for children, and increases access to and or usage of transit or multi-use facilities, and reduces emissions of air pollutants, including hazardous air pollutants and greenhouse gases that contribute to adverse environmental effects, including but not limited to climate change and adverse human health effects. So again, a reminder in terms of the funding estimates, as you know, 24 and 25 wasn't a lot of funding available, but that significantly increased 26 and 28. Again, a reminder, the total for category A was about 3.4 million, for category B is at 1.1, so about 4.5 million available for the call. So, again, a reminder too, as you can see there, those numbers I just mentioned on the previous slide as far as funding available. And then as far as sponsor, again, I think half the amount available for sponsor, so 1.7 million approximately for category A projects, about 567,000 category B, so about 2.2 million for project sponsor. Next slide, please. So obviously in the schedule, we're towards the end of the schedule. A lot has happened since then. Again, we're kind of at the final steps here. So again, appreciate your participation throughout the process. Obviously you were a significant portion as far as getting these projects selected. So I appreciate your time with that. Next slide. So then I'm going to move on to the project recommendations. So there's 3 projects for category A, including US 34 Transit Sidewalk Connectivity Project, Foothills Transit Station Roundabout, and the Taft Hill Road Corridor Project. Just a reminder that US 34 project, so as the Taft Hill project, are fully funded, while the Foothills Transit Station Roundabout is going to be partially funded. And it gets to that $3.4 million number I mentioned earlier. Next slide, please. So there are 2 projects in category B, including the Front Range Passenger Rail Fort Collins and Loveland Station project and the Logan County On-Demand Transit Program. Again, asking for the full amounts for both, with that $1.1 million funding for both projects. So with that, again, requesting a recommendation to the Planning Council, the recommended project for the memo call.
Questions or discussion, Mr. Mark?
I will also note, as far as Planning Council, I appreciate the various folks who talked about their projects. I know that the council appreciated that. And there wasn't really, it was all positive feedback that we received. So just thought I'd pass that along as well.
And a motion to.
Motion to approve the recommendation.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Next agenda item is the 23-24 transport program of projects update. Joshua Mom's going to present. Is he online by chance?
Yes, it's online. See.
Yeah, it's kind of on might be trying to figure out how to.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
We can hear you. Great, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. Hi, yeah. So much like last year, we had to revise our program of projects. This time will be for our FY 23 and 24 section 5307, 5310, and 5339 formula grants for the Fort Collins TMA. Updates include changes to funding amounts and format to maintain compliance with FTA. However, the identified projects remain fundamentally unchanged. Original program funding amounts were estimated in December based on prior year apportionments, with actual apportionments being released the following year. FTA requires a revision to the POP if changes in cumulative project funds exceed 20%. The FTA section 5310 program has specific requirements for the POP different from those for section 5307 and 5339. These include specifying the county served, distinguishing between capital and operating expenses, and clearly identifying which projects meet the 55% minimum for traditional 5310 projects. We've previously consolidated our POP under 5307 guidance, but that did not fully address the specific requirements for 5310. The current revision updates funding amounts and aligns the format with the more stringent section 5310 guidelines. This adjustment ensures that transport not only meets federal compliance standards, but also improves the effectiveness and transparency of the POP. This should be the last time we'll be making any format changes, so in the future will just be budget revisions. We are requesting approval of the TIP amendments for these updated program of projects.
Any questions for Joshua? Did you have more? Sorry.
Oh, no, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Questions? Get a motion for the recommendation of approval of the tip amendments, is that?
Yes.
Okay. I think I can say.
A second, yes.
All right, all in favor? All right. All opposed? Great, thank you, and we'll move in right straight into the next agenda item, which is the fiscal year 2025 transport program projects.
Yeah, so this is our FY 25 program projects for the same formula grants. Starting in FY 20, the city of Loveland became a direct recipient for 5307 and 5339 funds. Once final apportionments are announced by FTA, which we're expecting here shortly, final dollar amounts may change, but identified projects will remain the same. The city of Fort Collins designated recipient for the FTA section 5307, 5310, and 5339 funding for the Fort Collins TMA. We work with TMA members to develop distribution of available funds and identify the projects to be funded. We did hold a public meeting on December 20th from 12 to 1 p.m. at the Downtown Transit Center in Fort Collins. We also offered a virtual attendance option. Public notice of the meeting was published in the Coloradoan as well as on our website 2 weeks prior to the meeting. In the Coloradoan, we listed it in the print and digital ads. We did not receive any feedback or questions or concerns to date. City of Loveland will be coming in for FTA funds as a direct recipient again. And the funding exchange will remain in effect for Berthoud, NFRMPO, and Colt for 5310 funds. And, we are requesting approval of TIP amendments for this program projects as well.
Questions on this one? Can I get a motion to recommend approval of the transport 2025 tip amendments? Second,
I'll second.
thank you. All in favor? All opposed? There. All right, thank you so much, Josh.
Thank you.
All right, our next agenda item is the January 2025 tip.
Yes, so the January 2025 TIP amendment includes the addition of the CDOT Region 4 new project. Where is it? US 85 UPRR GAPS project. This project has 43,785 in federal TCC funding, that's Transportation Commission contingency, and then 458,000 in federal regional priority program funding, and all that is in previous funding. From my understanding, the entirety of this project is complete. It's just we need to include it into our TIP as part of, or to complete the process of our ALOP. So the 30-day public comment period opened on January 13th and closed on February 11th. And NFRMPO staff noted no disadvantages and support adding the the January 2025 TIP amendment to the FY 2024 through 2027 TIP.
Any questions for Jonathan?
Motion to approve 2025 TIP amendment.
Second. Second. All right, all in favor? All opposed? Thank you all so much. We're through our action items, you won't have to work so hard for the rest of this. All right. We're gonna move on to the national performance measures for your target, the 2025 adjustments, and Becky's gonna lead us through that conversation.
Yes. Hi, I apologize for not being there in person with you. I caught the thing that's going around, so I figured it'd be best to stay away and not share. So for the first of my 3 discussion items that I have for you this afternoon is an adjustment to one of our federal performance measures that falls under PM2, so the pavement and bridge condition. Specifically, the percentage of national highway system bridges by deck area classified in good condition target. So at the start of this 4-year period, CDOT had to set a 4-year target and a 2-year target. And then the MPOs in the state also had to set targets 180 days after CDOT set them, whether that would be to set their own or to support the state's targets. And for PM2 and PM3, we supported the state's targets, mostly because this is for different targets that are on the state system or things that we don't have funding sources specifically for. So in the interim, so the halfway through period, CDOT is able to, or the state DOTs are able to adjust their 4-year targets. And so CDOT went through a process of updating their targets. And for us, one target does not match. So we need to adjust this target to support the state's target or set our own. And for this one, we're recommending that we support the state's target. Currently, our percentage of bridges in good condition is at 36%. CDOT revised theirs to 38.5. And so that's what this adjustment would be, is to change our target from 36 to 38.5 to support the state's target. And Jacob Kirshner with CDOT, who was presented to TAC several months ago about the other targets that we adjusted, he is on the line if there's anything specific that a TAC member has about these targets. We're just supporting the state target, but all of the behind the scenes work was done by CDOT staff. So if there are specific questions for that, he's the right person to ask. But if there are any questions, happy to take those at this time.
Any questions for Becky? All right. Down here on the road. On to Becky has the next item. It's the NPO's 10-year priority list.
Yes, the never-ending topic. I just wanted to remind everyone, there is not a handout, and I apologize for that. I know that there will be a discussion item at the US 34 TAC meeting that is immediately following this TAC meeting for some updates to some of the US 34 projects on tiers 2 and tiers 3. And so once those, I receive those, I will have a finalized list and I'll send that out. I'll be sending out the materials for the workshop on the 23rd. So that's a week before, to give everyone time to look at those, the agenda, as well as the projects themselves. If there are any changes to any of your projects from the previous list that we've looked at, any cost adjustments that, costs have gone up, which happens, or parts have been funded and the cost is going down, that could also happen. I'm going to request that all of those changes be sent to me by the end of business day on Tuesday, so next Tuesday, so I have time to incorporate it before sending it out to everyone on the 23rd. And as a reminder, the workshop is on the 30th from 2:30 to 4:30 at Weld County Administration Building, which is where we have council when we do go to Weld County. So, and there is not a virtual option. This is a strictly in-person only workshop. Happy to take any questions if anyone has any, but please do send me anything that you have that you want to update on the list before I finalize it.
Right. Thank you. Any questions for Becky on the 10-year priority list? Right. And I will say for the 34 prioritization, we're working through just sort of a highlight of the safety and capacity issues we have out there. So we'll have that handout by the 23rd for you as well. Right. And then your final discussion item, Becky, the fiscal year 26 through 29 NFRMPO TIC.
Yes, so we had intended to bring the new projects for our new tip, so 2026 to 2029 tip, to you at this meeting with looking at adoption by council at their March meeting. However, with some of the project or one of the projects that was submitted to us, the bottom project on that list that you're seeing there is requiring us to do conformity as well as GHG transportation report update. And so that is not a feasible timeline to get this, all of that done by March. So we're pushing out the adoption of the tip to September by council, which gives us time to go through the conformity determination process, as well as the GHG transportation report, get on the AQCC's agenda, get on the Transportation Commission's agenda for these various reports ahead of council adopting the new tip. That does give us time for any projects that you may have now or may know about in the next couple of months, especially if they're capacity projects or air quality significant. Those are things that we need to know sooner rather than later, so we can just incorporate all of them into one conformity determination item. And if we need to update the RTP, we'll need to fold that into it as well. So if you have anything, now's the time to submit those. The projects that will be approved by council for MMOF at their February meeting, you don't need to send those in. Those will be incorporated. So they'll go into the tip that we have now. So that's not an issue, depending on the funding years. So just wanted to show this list to you. These are all the projects that we got that are new. These are not roll forward projects that are already in the tip or that need to be rolled forward because of, for whatever reason. So if you don't see your project up here, but you know it's going to be there, but it's already in the tip, don't worry, it will be included. But these are the only new projects that we received. So if there is anything else, I know that we do have a meeting tomorrow with Larimer County staff about a potential project. So there might be another one to add to this list. But if there is anything else, please get it to Jonathan or myself or both of us so we can get them on the list and figure out if we need to do conformity or not. But I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has any.
Hi, Becky, it's Tom Moore. Hey, you and I had exchanged emails a couple of months ago, and how does the unified work program document fit in with this process?
So the UPWP is the work plan and the work program for the MPO. The TIP is all of the projects that are on regionally significant corridors, whether they are funded by state or federal sources, and any other projects that are funded by state and federal sources.
So does that unified work program plan get updated with respect to this new TIP?
So the TIP itself is a work task in the UPWP. So that's the work that the MPO staff does, is the UPWP. So that's our work program, so our work plan for 2 fiscal years. We'll be updating that and having a new one adopted in May. So that will cover fiscal years 26 and 27. But yeah, this is part of that. This is one of the work products that we produce, the TIP is, so.
Well, does the TAC get involved in looking at that work program?
At the tasks, yes. And then the council looks at the tasks and the budget as well.
All right, well, I guess I can follow up with you. There was some descriptive language that I think needs to be updated in there.
Oh, in the prospectus in the narrative at the front?
Let's see here.
Is that what you're talking about?
I gotta find the email here. I don't
Because
know.
yes, absolutely, that language needs to be updated, and that is something that we'll be doing. So anything you can offer for that, I will take anything that you want to give me for that. So I appreciate the help.
Will do. Thanks for closing the loop.
Questions for Becky? Thank you, Becky. Right, we'll move on to our outside
partner reports. We have a written report in your packet for the NOFA Bike Ed Collaborative. Any report outs from our regional transit agencies? One online. Going once. Twice. All right, don't have any reports from our transit agencies. Any mobility updates?
Yes, hi. This is Aaron, the mobility planner for the NFRMPO. I have a few updates. We'll be holding our joint NCMC meeting with Boulder next month out in Berthoud, as well as just wanted to run over some of our 2024 numbers. We went over the end of the year numbers for Ride NoCo, and we received around 368 calls, around 5,000 website visits over the year. And then we did 29 outreach events last year, 2 travel trainings and 24 presentations, as well as gave out over 700 riders guides and 700 rack cards, and then gave out about 2,000 marketing materials. And for the beginning of the year, we have about 6 outreach programs or events set up for the beginning of the year. And we have a few more health organizations that are reaching out to us to set up more events. So that's the beginning of the year so far, just some updates. And if anyone has any questions, I can answer any.
Questions for Aaron? Thank you, Aaron. All right, in your packet, you'll find a written report for the January Planning Council. Mobility committee updates. 2024 tip modifications. Now we'll move into a roundtable. We have no updates. No.
Okay.
I'll let you do my update.
So today is my last TAC meeting. Meeting with NFRMPO. I was accepted a position in Washington State with Grace Harbor Council of Governments, Aberdeen. So I'll be serving lots of small communities out that way. So my last day with the organization will be the 24th. So any questions you have, concerns, what have you, related specifically to MMOF, I would direct them to Becky and Jonathan.
Pleasure to work with you. Is it us? Are we the problem?
No, you guys were great. You guys were great. I'm glad I had the opportunity to work with you specifically in MMOF stuff.
We appreciate it too. Good luck with your next.
Thank you.
Is that about living on an island? You know, no, it's only-
Right along the coast of Pacific Ocean, so.
Oh, I see, we're out there.
No additional update. I gave my update earlier, so.
You're looking.
They have damage.
We are bringing our Mission Zero plan to our city council next week, which we're really excited about. We got some initial feedback last week and went really well, so excited for that. And then our mobility development plan is wrapping up. Some of our routes will be adjusted in Greeley, and we're also looking forward to that. So
Hi, I'm Drew. No updates. Thanks for, no, it's a good meeting.
All right, so NFRPO staff, IAB, we will be doing legislative updates. So we'll be keeping track of major legislation going through the General Assembly during this term. We do send that information out through our council packet. It will also be uploaded on our website. Webpage is not up yet because the legislative session began last Wednesday. Began recently, so there's not really much to report on, but once that link is up, I can share it to you all. And if there are any questions on some of those bills, we can be a resource. I'll try to get as much information as I can. But that is something that we do, is keep track of legislation, so that's wanted you all to be aware of that.
Updates from we are gonna be hiring a transportation planner, so if anyone that's staying in Colorado that be interested, we'll be posting that here shortly and. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Right, anyone online? That, we will
Nicole, if I may, real fast, this is Shani Porter, Town of Severance. Mark, super sad to see you go. Thank you so much for taking a few of my calls and helping me along the way. But I wish you nothing but the very best in your next endeavor. But selfishly, dang it.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Nicole, I had a suggestion for maybe a future topic related to the regional air quality part of North Front Range NPO. So I understand that CDOT is doing air quality monitoring around the current construction work, the 25. Is that something we could ask CDOT to talk about what they're finding?
Yeah, absolutely. I can reach out for the next meeting and see if we can get that on the agenda either next time or one of the future meetings.
Thank you.
I don't have anybody from CDOT on now. Scanning our. I'll reach out to Abra. See if she's got one. I know we've talked in terms of agenda items, one of the, I would love to hear from Greeley, and I know Phil Collins recently had a Vision Zero action plan adopted as well, so that was something we were wanting to bring back when we didn't have a busy agenda at some point in the future, is just learning what each of the communities is doing with their Safe Streets for All grants, so we can maybe plan that one of these lighter meetings in the future, so. All right. That's all we have today. Thank you so much.
You guys expression on that.
I do it.